We're live. I'm live. I don't want to write a comment. I want to see comments though. There they are. Then we have to swipe right or swipe left. Probably have to swipe left. Oh, just let's see. There should be an option for me to bring you on camera. Okay, you should be getting an option to join the camera, Trista. I don't know how all this works. It's new to me. We'll play with it and figure it out, huh? Yep. I've been putting off cleaning my room. Let's see, so I told you guys about the opportunity to do college course for ministers' wives. What? I told you about that a week or two ago. And I had to get a bunch of paperwork together to apply for it and everything. And I could not find my marriage license anywhere. I tore my closet apart, pulled out all of our memory boxes and all the things I had put away for shadow boxes for the kids, and which, you know, it's 15 years is my oldest now, and I still haven't put a shadow box together, so that probably will never happen. Maybe by the time they all move out and start having kids of their own. We'll see, because, you know, Toby's only 2, so we'll see. Jocelyn will be out way before the others are. Anyway, so I pulled everything out of my closet looking for my marriage license. Haven't found it yet. I don't know what I did with it. And thankfully they didn't need it. But so I did that, and then not 2 days later, Russ pulled everything out of the closet looking for his what was he looking for? Something for his computer or whatever, computer parts. He has those stashed in boxes everywhere. So he pulled everything out of the closet, and of course he didn't know how to put all my stuff back in the closet because it's tetride in there, kind of crazy. And so everything stayed out, scattered across our bedroom for the last week and a half. And I'm telling you, I couldn't even sleep in this room well this last week and a half just because it's been so dirty. It's kept me anxious, like in a constant state of high anxiety. And so I finally started getting that cleaned up today. And it took Russ being off and dealing with the kids. Yeah, how did you do that? Did you have to actually go in and order one? Because we got married in Arizona. I'd have a long way to travel in order to go get one. I'd probably order it online, huh? I don't know what I did with it. I had it in a frame somewhere at one point, and then I pulled it out, and I don't know what happened to it. So, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I finally got around to cleaning up our bedroom, and I did like 3 loads of laundry and never folded them because the room was just stressed out. Now I'm folding the laundry in a mostly clean room. I'm still waiting for my sheets to get dry because Toby has started peeing in my bed. Ew, yeah, I don't want to have to travel to Arizona to go get my license. Not that I don't want to travel to Arizona. I miss it. It was nice. I loved it there. But that's a long way to drive. Might just have to wait until our next visit out there to go see my sister. We'll see. We might. We have to. I could order Russ's and Talia's birth certificates online. But anyway, so I figured, well, since I'm in here in my room and it's quiet in here, I might as well see if there's anybody who wants to get on and do the chat that we discussed. And so here we are. We are here. I'm like, Horton, here's the who's. We're here, we're here, we're here. So y'all talk. Tell me. If you want to go live on here with me, I can put you on camera. I believe there's an option to do that. I can add people. If you don't want to go on screen, you can text and I will read it and we will talk. But there's been some messages sent to me telling me that women are just, they're definitely seeing some spiritual battles going on in and around their homes. Sometimes it's, with issues with their husbands. Sometimes it's just issues in general. Just because, we know that Satan doesn't like the idea of us doing this in the first place. And so he's doing everything he can to try and stop us. And, I'm not exempt from that. Well, I mean, go to your room and lock the door. Just yeah, Josiah's actually, like, let me show you. Let me take you off of here for a second. Josiah, he's sleeping on my bed. Oh, there he is. I woke him up. He's gonna go back to sleep, I bet you. Yeah, he's gonna go back to sleep. Oh. Yep. Nope. But, yeah. He and Toby didn't take naps today because Daddy was in charge of, the house while I ran out and did some errands, and, naps didn't happen until about 5 o'clock. So, hopefully he'll stay out for the night. And that's the only reason Toby's not in here is because she's in the living room on the couch asleep. So, anyway. Back to what I was saying. There's a lot of spiritual battles I've seen people message me about. And like I said, I'm not exempt from that. I have a lot that I deal with, and on a spiritual level, as far as, just motivation to keep going every day. Ooh, that's good. That is good. Yeah, I mean, fights happen all the time. Russ and I get into it, and that's one good thing about me having the husband I have. He is far from one of those who will sit there and say that, he's got it all figured out because he's a pastor. No, he'll be the first one to tell you he's not perfect, even though he's a pastor. And he'll tell you when, he hasn't loved me the way he's supposed to, like Christ loves the church. He was just talked about that last night at Wednesday night church, as a matter of fact. And, we're not exempt from hard times. I mean, I think, honestly, we get hit really hard with them a lot. And there's days that, I want to quit and be done and not even deal with him or praying for him. And like y'all, I'm not gonna lie. There are days when sometimes I get in my flesh and I just want to walk away from prayer and from trying to do what's right, because it's not encouraging when you're trying and you're praying and you're doing your best and things just never seem to go the right way, and you're just like, what, I'm sick of trying. I just want life to be easy again, and you want to just give up. Yeah, Hannah, I know. It's definitely not easy. And then I know you guys have a lot going on, just period, with the house and everything. So, we've been praying for that and that it goes all smoothly and everything. But that's a lot of added extra stress, I can imagine. But even in the moments of wanting to give up and to quit and just walk away from praying and say, you know what, it's so much easier just living in the flesh and not struggling to try and live for Christ, you know. I mean, honestly, how long do you think we can live like that and be happy? You know what I mean? Because we know the truth and we walk in the truth. And yeah, it might be okay for a couple hours a day, a couple days, maybe a week to just give it all up. But I mean, the Holy Spirit's not going to stop getting onto you and writing on your conscience and saying, hey, you know, this ain't right. So, I mean, no matter what we do, it's a matter of God's not going to let us just walk away. So we just need to stay firm in our faith and consistent in prayer. And God will be faithful. You know, He promises us that He will be faithful and answer our prayers. And sometimes it's a matter of we don't see the spiritual battles going on around us. You know, let me see. I know that I think it was David was praying, and God had sent an angel to tell him his prayer had been answered, and the angel left heaven. You know, this is before Jesus died, and God had to send angels as messengers, and so He sent an angel to go tell David his prayer was answered, and it took him days, I believe, or 2 weeks to get to him because there was a demon standing in his way fighting the angel. So he had to wait for basically reinforcement angels to come and fight for him so that he could leave that battle and go to David and tell him that his prayer was answered. You know, so it may be a matter of we have to wait it out, and we have to wait for the spiritual battle around us to be dealt with by our guardian angels, our angels that surround our homes and put the hedge of protection around us. We have to wait for them to clear the road. You know what I mean? So I know it's hard for some of you, harder for others, maybe easier for some of you, easier for others, but don't give up. Just don't give up. Let me see. Oop. See more. Thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah, Trista, definitely. I see that. Even here, you know what I mean? My husband's not one that likes to hold grudges or anything, you know what I mean? If I do something wrong, he'll be upset for 5 minutes, and then he gets about it, puts it in another box, and tosses it to the corner. His mind doesn't think about it. It dwells with me forever. I mean, I can stay mad about something for days. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But he's usually good about forgiving and things, and lately I've gotten to the point where, and I mean, I've been trying to do this since before we started the prayer challenge, but I've been trying to get to where I apologize, period, because a lot of times I didn't want to apologize because I didn't want to be wrong. I wanted him to realize he was wrong, you know what I mean? And but now it's gotten to a point where God's not letting me do that. So I get you. I definitely get you. Let's see. Does anybody want to come on live and come on the screen with me? I don't have to be the only one on here talking. It says that I can have people come on. I know. Yeah. And that's where the scriptures that we're reading through as we're praying, they really get to me. Sometimes as I'm reading them, I'm sitting here like, man, I really need to be praying this over me, you know, because it's, you know, things that I know I am weak in. And so, yeah, I get that. I wish I could say that, you know, I don't hold grudges, but it's, I think it's, if you are a stay-at-home mom, it's easier for you to sit there and hold on to the grudges and think about the things longer because we don't have as much outside distractions that you know, we can shift our focus on. We stay in this house and or in our house or whatever, you know, around the same people, the same situations, the same things consistently, and it just like lives and dwells with us, you know. And I think that's why it's so much easier for us to hold on to the grudges and to think about the things that make us angry. So we need to not necessarily find a way to step outside of that, but find a way to take our minds outside of that. I found is easier for me when I just go sit outside on the porch on my swing and just take some time to sit there and just watch the birds while I listen to my audio Bible or listen to some praise music or you know, read a good Christian book, self-help kind of book, to reset my mind and just refocus on things. And that's hard for us to do as moms, I know, because it seems like the minute we walk out the door, everything goes crazy, or the kids are on our toes, or, you know, but we have to make time for Jesus in our lives and in our hearts, or we're not doing our main portion of ministry. You know, our ministry is our home and our children, and, you know, ministering to our husbands. And how can we do that if we are, you know, constantly at a point where we're not filling ourselves with God's Word and the Holy Spirit? You know, so we need to make sure we're taking time to do that. But I've been kind of thinking about, what do we do after this? What goes on after the 31-day prayer challenge? I mean, I'm not telling y'all to stop praying after this. I mean, I definitely think this is something you could flip the book around and start going again and continue praying. Because, and I mean, I don't think it would do any harm for anybody's marriage to continue to pray these things and you know, maybe change up the prayers a little bit on your own as you get more accustomed to praying over the landmarks from head to toe each day. And you can add your own scriptures, you can add your own thoughts. What one is it? What's the title? You can message me the picture of it, but I don't know if it'll let you put it on here. But I'm definitely up for suggestions. I was kind of thinking we could either go through one of 3 books that I've already done and I really enjoyed doing and really feel like they'd be beneficial at this point. If you wanted to stick around for it. If not, you know, y'all can be on your way and not have to see my face anymore. But the books that I've gone through already that I thoroughly enjoyed, one is oh, who's the author? That sounds good. That might be something I would do on my Mommy's Finding Grace page, just so that other moms could be involved. And that's kind of what I was hoping to do with that page initially, was to get, I I bought a book called Mom Set Free. I don't know if you and I discussed that back in when we lived in Minden, but I started it and I haven't finished it. That's a good one for moms that I wanted to go through. The books that I went through were The Love Dare, which was really good. I've made it all the way to, I think it's a 40-day challenge, and I made it all the way to 35, and then life happened and we got busy, and I didn't finish the last 5 days. I really want to go through that again. Kristen Welch. That sounds familiar. I'm gonna have to look into that one. That one is, obviously marriage-based. If we wanted to keep on praying for your husbands or your marriage, that one would be a good one. Love Dare. Another one would be that I liked that's more just focused on women. One is The Lies Women Believe and the Truth That Sets Them Free. And I believe there's actually a couple of women that in this group that have gone through that book with me. I don't remember if we got to finish it or not, or if life happened and we didn't get to finish going through it. But that's a really good one, and it does have chapters in it about your, lies about your marriage and your relationships and things like that. So that was a really good one. It's by Nancy Lee DeMoss, and I love her. And then another one that I did that I absolutely love, and I still share a lot of quotes from her, is A Woman After God's Own Heart by Elizabeth George. I love her books. She does several. She does A Wife After God's Own Heart. She does A Marriage After God's Own Heart. She does a Girl After God's Own Heart, based on, for younger girls. So there's those that we could look into doing. And those are more, study books and less of a, one person kind of reading. Which one, Trista? The Lies Women Believe or A Woman After God's Own Heart? I mean, both of them are really good, but I think The Woman After God's Own Heart is based more on your relationship with God and how that affects your life in different levels. Lies Women Believe and the Truth That Sets Them Free. Man, that one really is I think that one's probably one of the best ones. I've bought probably 5 or 6 of those books, and I've ended up giving them away to people. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a really good one. I wrote to the publishing company and asked them if I could get like a permission from them to, take pictures of and copy like whole chapters of the book and share it with a few people, because I was buying book after book. Like I said, I bought probably 5 or 6 copies and given them out to people. But that gets kind of expensive after a while, and so I was asking if I could, give them just bits and pieces, because I was trying to do what was right and, follow the copyright laws and all that kind of stuff, and they wouldn't give me permission, which kind of bothered me, but I guess it's a publishing company and they're out for their money. They're like, well, you can order them in bulk, and, I'm like, oh, I don't have money to order them in bulk. I don't know what kind of people you talk to, but I'm not one of those that has that kind of money to order things in bulk and then just have them sitting around to hand out to people. But maybe we'll look at doing that if that's something y'all want to do. Like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I wouldn't mind going through it again. It tackles so many of the lies that we are told and that are ingrained in us from childhood on up. Just from advertising and from the way our mothers taught us, because they were advertised too, and just kind of, it was taught gradually through the years and just changed the way women see things now, and so many things where we're taught, that it's our place to change our husband when, we know well and right it's not. our place to change our husband. It's God's place to change our husband. It's our place to support them and to love them and to protect them, because that's what a helpmeet does. And so it's all about that, about, where we find our worth and our value, and how we look, how we dress, how we present ourselves. And she's not one of those people that's sitting there like, oh, you have to wear a dress and you can't wear makeup and you have to wear your hair in a bun and all. She's not like that. She's just like, it needs to be, you need to look at yourself from a biblical perspective, and not in a way of trying to fit in with the culture that you live in. And I think that's a big deal these days. I've actually avoided sharing some posts that I don't know who posted it. One of the Christian women I follow posted it, but it kind of burned when I read it, because it was talking about Christian women doing the taking of the selfies, and they are trying to, remake the images that they see their non-Christian friends doing, which is really more of like seductive kind of selfie poses and things like that, and it's how it's, ungodly and that kind of stuff. Because I've also read through a book that was really good. I'm not that good at it. I'm terrible at talking, at reading. I don't know if y'all have noticed how many times I mess up on my reading. And then I think about how I messed up and it messes me up on the next line. I try though. It's not super easy. But I'm enjoying it. It's I would like to see interaction, more of us talking amongst ourselves and encouraging each other. I think that would be really beneficial for everybody. Not saying that if you don't talk, I don't want you in the group, but it's one of those things where just the more that we talk, the more that we interact, the more that we encourage each other, the easier the task at hand will become. That's just something I've seen myself, being in the position that I'm in. Yeah, we can do things alone. But it's so much better when we have people doing things with us. But children's books are meant to be like, well, I don't know. I mess up quite a bit doing Dr. Seuss. He's fun to read though. The kids always laugh. No, you want to pull out a tongue twister. Oh, those are fun. I enjoy it. I really do. And I wouldn't mind continuing on with this. So, if that's something you guys want to do, let me know. And like I said, we'll look into some books. If it's going to be a new book, I would prefer it be something that I can look at ahead of time. I'm really particular, and I don't want to say it's my way or the highway, but I'm really particular about what I study, as far as, if they're using a lot of and don't judge me, but if they're using a lot of the Message Bible or the certain versions of the Bible that I feel are very watered down, and I know that they've removed a lot of context out of them, I will not use that Bible study. There's been a couple that we've started in past churches that, initially they were pretty good, but I really felt like the message was really teetering on that line of trying to give politically correct advice that fits in with their culture and trying to stay Christian enough to be in the Christian self-help section, you know. So if there's something new, I would suggest that, you know, that I would look at it first before I say, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, really dig into that. I know there's a lot of people out there that, you know, like I said, still feel like it's their job to tell their husband what's going to be and how it's going to be, and, you know, that they can look just like the world and act just like the world and have marriages just like the world, but they're not following biblical example, you know. And so I just want to make sure that whatever we're going through is going to be glorifying God and leading women in the right way. You know what I'm saying? So we'll have to look into it. But I'll put a poll up, I guess, and see what book we want to go through next, if we wanted to. And that way we can decide ahead of time, and you guys can have time to, you know, order them and get them in if you wanted. I believe so, Margaret. I believe he really is. I get, you know, at least a message every few days from different people telling me, you know, what's going on, and, you know, how they've seen things change, or that they, you know, see that something's working, that God is working, or, you know, that there's a lot of pushback because, you know, God's working, and Satan doesn't like that. And all I can say to that is, you know, we know that God wins in the end, you know, and we don't have to fear what Satan can do to us, because God is greater than him, you know. That if we just stay faithful and stay continuous in our prayers for our husbands and for our marriages, that, you know, God will be faithful. It's like the lady was saying, like Sharon in the book was saying, you know, she's seen women who prayed for years, and I've personally known people who prayed for, I know one lady had prayed for 20 years for her husband to stop drinking and to get his life right, and she stayed faithful to him, and she stayed praying and doing, you know, her best to be a godly example for him all that time. And one day he gave up his alcohol and went into the church, and he had grown into being a huge testimony for the church. He became a deacon, you know, because he had just poured his life into learning everything he could about God after that point. You know what I mean? And those are going to be some amazing testimonies, the ones that are dealing with things like that. I know they will be. You know, I know there's, you know, people that will say that, you know, how can a loving God allow all these terrible things to happen to people? But in the same hand, you have to think of the beauty that comes out of all of the hardships and all the trials. And so maybe you dealt with something that was absolutely terrible, and it was, you know, the worst experience in your life, and you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. I know I've been there. We've had 3 miscarriages, and it's been hard. With each loss, it was absolutely terrible. After our first 2 losses, I mean, I got heavy into alcohol, and I just got into this massive, like, clinical depression. They had me on some medication. I didn't like it, so I got back off of it. But, I mean, I got into alcohol really bad. You know, I honestly, I was ready to just not deal with life anymore. I wasn't suicidal. I just wanted to run away from everyone and everything, and was looking for opportunities to just disappear because it hurt so much to be around anyone that reminded me of my pain and my loss, you know? So I can tell you that I've experienced those things, but I also know that there's times where me not even knowing it, God has used my experiences to help other people through their pain. I have a dear friend who's also a pastor's wife, and when she first met Talia, I believe it was, Talia was telling her that, you know, we had so many kids, and she said, my mommy has 9 kids, but 3 of our babies are born and they went straight to heaven. And so that opened up this discussion about, you know, miscarriages and how I'd lost babies, and, you know, how I found peace after that. And I was open and honest and explained to the lady, you know, the first 2 I really had a hard time recovering from. But it's only by the grace of God that I got through them. And she was pregnant during this time, and lo and behold, she ended up having a miscarriage. And she was saying, you know, I ran into her a couple months after her miscarriage, and she told me that one of the main things that helped her to get through the pain of her miscarriage was knowing the things that I told her. You know what I mean? I had no idea when I was talking to her. I mean, we had just met at that point. I had no idea that what I was saying to her was going to be used by God to heal her and, you know, help her to find peace and comfort in her time of loss and mourning. But God used it, you know, so every terrible thing that we go through can be used for God's glory and be used to help somebody else through the hard times that they've gone through. And I mean, I've been through some terrible things in my life that, I mean, I don't even like discussing. I wasn't born a pastor's wife. I wasn't born into being a spiritual, you know, I know it all, I have an easy button. I didn't have all that. You know, so I was raised in a Christian home. My grandfather was our pastor, my dad was our youth minister, my mom was the children's minister, and all my teenage years I was the nursery. That's all I did, was work in the nursery. And I mean, if I didn't have a baby on my hip, everybody forgot who I was, you know. But I had a bad experience with a pastor who, because I was raised charismatic, and we had just moved to a new place, and so I'll share this part with you. We had moved to a new city. We left Georgia and we went to New Mexico, and I had met a friend. His name was Pete. I met him at school, and he was like, well, why don't you come to youth group with me? So I said, okay, let's go to youth group. I mean, we hadn't been friends very long, but I went to this youth group, and at that service, they had people that were, and I used to do it all the time, they would speak in tongues and all of those things, and so they had this full out, you know, service. And at the end, the pastor did an altar call and asked everybody come up to the front. And it wasn't an option. Everybody had to go up front. So I went up front with him, and he started praying over each and every person that was there. And as he was praying for them, all of them were just like falling slain in the spirit. And I had done that before. I mean, I was raised charismatic. I knew what all of that was about. But when he got to me, I didn't fall slain in the spirit. I just did not feel the Holy Spirit that day. He wasn't washing over me. I didn't feel like it was a spirit-led service, you know. But that pastor pretty much stopped the service and told everybody how I was wicked and I was evil, and he used some slur words about me because I was there, you know, with a guy that, you know, he assumed we were in some kind of ungodly relationship. And so that was my last time going to church. I was 16. I stopped going to church at that time, and I went into a full-out rebellion. I was really upset. I was angry with God. I was angry with the church, because I was like, look, there's no reason a pastor, a youth pastor, whomever, should talk to anybody like that, you know. And so I went into rebellion, and it didn't make it any better that because I was acting out so much, my parents decided to let me move in with a friend, because I'd had an easier time, better time in one of the places that we had recently lived. I moved around a lot. I got in less trouble in the city my friend lived in, so I moved in with her and her parents. I wasn't their kid. They didn't care. You know, they would buy me whatever I wanted. They would buy me cigarettes. They would buy me alcohol. I wasn't their kid. It wasn't their problem. They didn't care. So I was allowed to do whatever I wanted to, and that just allowed more rebellion and more hardships. And I can tell you that there are so many things that I opened myself up to because of my rebellion, because of my experience. And I wouldn't wish them on my enemy. Now, that led to me being in the life that I was in when I met my husband, you know, which thankfully by the time I met him, I had gone back to church. I'd met a girl in a city that I was living in at the time who invited me to church, and I fell in love with the church and started going, and, you know, then I met him and brought him to church, and he was already saved. He just had been out of church for a while too. And so you know, everything led to where it was, where Russ and I met. And the funny thing is, you know, outside of knowing each other at work for 2 weeks prior to our first date, we didn't hang out outside of work. Our first date was, we went to church, and then we went out to ice cream after church, and we drove around for 5 hours just talking about how much we loved God and what our life experience was with growing up, you know, with a minister family, and just talking about our lives and what our dreams were. And I'm not going to joke, our first date, we decided we were going to be in the ministry together, and we were going to get married. That was our first date. And, you know, so everything that I went through, all of the hurt, all of the pain, God uses that even now, you know, as I deal with women who have been abused, because I was there. Women who have, you know, dealt with alcohol, who've dealt with depression, who have dealt with anxiety, who have dealt with suicidal thoughts, who have dealt with, you know, all of these things. I've been through so many of those things, and God uses those to let me minister to other people. So don't let these hard times, and that's the whole the whole story, don't let these hard times be discouraging to you. God can take the ugliness and what's the remnants of the fire, the ashes, and turn it into something beautiful. He can use it for his story for you. You know, beautiful song, Crystal, I think it was Crystal Lewis. No, yeah, Crystal Lewis, Beauty for Ashes, from back in the 90s. But that was one of my favorite songs for years. Yeah, that was our first date. Yeah, that's and everybody still, they hear that and they're like, "Wow, you're serious?" Yeah, that was our first date. That's how things went. Just boom, and we were married within, you know, just months of that. But God uses those things to help touch others and to help reach others, because honestly, if everybody who is a Christian, you know, was just one of those holier than thou, I've never drank, I've never smoked, I've never had heartbreak, I've never had experienced, you know, temptations or trials or any of those things, if all of those people were just those overzealous, pompous people that you see walking around with their noses in the air, the Pharisees, who would want to be drawn to a religion like that? You know, it takes those of us who have been there and said, I've been pulled up out of the muck and the mire, and I've been where you're at, and I know that there's healing, and I know that there's goodness coming from the dirt and the mud. You know, it takes those of us who have been there and experienced it to sometimes reach those who are in it right now. Thanks, Margaret. It can get me in trouble. It really can. I can put my foot out there, my neck out there way too far sometimes, and get myself into some trouble. But I'm a fixer too, so that's probably where my trouble comes in, is sometimes I feel like I have to do this because I have to help fix them. Instead of letting God play things out, I try and help him put things in order, and my husband has to say, hey babe, back up and let God do God, and you just fill in where God tells you to fill in at. But it's challenging, I'm not gonna lie. Through prayer challenges like this, because I know Satan attacks. This is not my first time attempting to do good for women and for their relationships. I started writing a book. Let's see, Talia is 8, so I started writing a book 11 years ago, which was shortly right before I had my first miscarriage, and it was something along the lines of what lies women believe and the truth sets them free. So I think it was before that book came out, that it was something that was meant to give a good biblical perspective, because like I said, there's a lot of books out there that don't give very good biblical wisdom to women on how to be a godly woman, is what I was writing about. And I've still got all the pages, but it seemed like I would start writing it and I would start piecing it together, and then I would have tragedy happen. We had one miscarriage, and then we had a second miscarriage, and then, you know, after I finally found healing after the second miscarriage and started growing back with God again, I started writing again, and then we moved, and it was crazy. And then I had another miscarriage, and then, you know, I found a lot easier healing after the third miscarriage, and that was because, you know, I had a really good support system at the church that we were at, so we, you know, I found healing better after that, and now I can use that to help other people, now that I found the good scriptures and things that really just help you find peace in a loss like that. But we moved again, and then I was in Colorado with, we had so many things attacking us while we were living in Colorado. We moved up there. I don't know if you guys remember the flooding and stuff that happened in Aurora back in 2013. We moved up there months, not even months after that happened, for a job, and there were no homes to be had because everything was either demolished in the floods or was being rented out, you know, for those who had lost their homes in the floods. So we literally lived in an extended stay hotel for 6 months. We had 3 babies at the time, and I say babies, but Jocelyn was in first or second grade, and Trey was in kindergarten, so Jocelyn was in second grade. And so we were homeschooling from the hotel room. I was pregnant, and we also had Talia, who was about 16, 18 months old at the time. And we only had one vehicle, and my husband had to go to work. We didn't know hardly anybody up there, and I praise God for, you know, putting us in the right place at the right time to meet a couple of people that really just stepped out. And one lady, and she will forever hold a piece of my heart, Misty, we got to a point to where our car wasn't available anymore, and she would literally drive down to our hotel, pick us up on Sundays, take us to church. After church, her and her husband would take turns driving the van back and forth to get her family and my family all to her house. She would feed us lunch, we would hang out at her house, and then she would take us back to church, and then she would take us to, home at the end of the day. And if it wasn't for them and, the friendships and things, it would have been a whole lot worse. But I call Colorado my desert place. It was absolutely terrible. And I didn't write anything then because I was just having a really hard time dealing with being there. And then we moved to Louisiana, and for a while nothing seemed to have been working out the way it should have been. And we never really intended on living very long in Louisiana. It was supposed to be, we stopped here suddenly because I was expecting a baby and had to, stay somewhere long enough to be able to have a baby and recover and have, a doctor that would take care of the pregnancy, because I was supposed to have a C-section, and because his job fell through in Colorado, by the way, and we didn't have the means to stay there. I don't know if y'all have ever been to the Denver, Aurora area, but it is uber expensive. We're talking like $1,600–1,800 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. It was crazy. We couldn't afford to live there, so we had to leave. So it was just one thing after another, and since we've been here, I've had 4 children. No, 3. I've had 3 children here. And I just stay busy, and then God's put us in ministry. And so one day, as Margaret's saying, one day I will, I think, finish the book. I just don't know when. But, God has his reasons for allowing us to deal with the consequences that he allows us to deal with. I mean, he can remove them if he wanted to, and just a snap of a finger. But a lot of times, like I said, he'll use them for his good, because Romans tells us that all things work together for good for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. So even the bad things are used for good. And just because you got, you fail, you don't pray that day, you get so angry, you decide, I'm just not praying for you today. You lash out and say things you shouldn't say, or, maybe you've done horrible things in your past. God uses that too. We just discussed Wednesday night at church that all the great men and women of the Bible, God makes sure to put a great beaming spotlight on all the areas that they failed. Okay? Yes, David, he was a man after God's own heart, but what did David do? His sin isn't glanced over. He was a murderer and an adulterer, right? Abraham, he would give his wife away. He was the father of our faith, right? But he would literally tell his wife, lie and tell him you're my sister and go sleep with the Pharaoh or the king so that I don't die. He did that. And then we also have where he listened to his wife instead of listening to God. And, his wife told him, oh, sleep with my handmaid. She's the one that's the promise is going to come through because I'm too old. Really? So he listened to his wife. And then after Hagar started acting crazy and being foolish, he told Sarah, do what you want with her. And let Sarah just throw her basically to the wolves. And so he wasn't a good man either. Samson was an adulterer and he was a murderer. Samson, he was a strong man and did great things for God, but he lost a bet and was told that he had to deliver so many amounts of clothes. And what did he do to do that? He went through and murdered a bunch of people, killed a bunch of people, and took their clothes and brought them as his deal of his end of the bargain, the bet. So all of these people are great men of God, and yet they're huge sinners. Rahab, who did wonderful things for Israel by helping in the spies and putting out the break for them. She was a prostitute, okay? But she was counted for us for having faith, okay? So just because we mess up, just because we fail, even if we fail big time, You know, God can still use us. God can still make a beautiful portrait out of our mess. You know, kind of like the whole Bob Ross thing. You know, we don't mess up. We have happy accidents, and we work it into the picture. You know, God can work happy accidents into our picture. You know what I mean? So yeah, don't lose your faith. Don't lose your determination to see through the challenge and continue on. It'll be worth it in the end. It really will. So, but yeah, like I said, I'll put up a poll later with at least 3 books, maybe a couple more that I know of that are really good, that we might go into next. And that way, if you guys wanted to stick around and do, you know, a devotional challenge kind of deal, we could do that. You know, and you, like I said, I'm putting out the prayer challenge weekly, and so you can continue on doing the prayer challenge. So I'm excited to see that, you know, so many women are wanting to pray for their husbands and you know, see change in their marriages and in their lives. And you know, that's going to affect your children. You know, they're going to see these things. I've heard from women who are telling me that their children are seeing what they're doing, and that they're, you know, wanting to devote more time into reading their Bible and into praying more often. And it's a beautiful thing to see those kind of testimonies coming, you know, just coming out from everywhere. So yes, it is challenging, but like I said, it's going to be very worth it to see the challenge through. Oh, thank you, ladies. I love you too. Like I said, y'all mean a lot to me. Just know that everybody's praying for not just their marriages, but, you know, praying for each other and praying for each other's marriages. It's an encouraging thing. I love you, Trista. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you've always been encouraging, no matter what I am up to. I'm still mad at you for moving up to Indiana, but you know what? I'll get over it one day. But yeah. Anybody got any thoughts or, you know, questions, encouragements, anything else you want to share? I think my coffee's cold. Now it's warm. Yes. Yes, it does. And I pray that they grow more and more godly each day. Yeah, because, I mean, even if they are godly men, there are still things that, you know, there are still things that they are drawn to. You know, not necessarily pornography, like a lot of the things where it's talking about the eyes or talking about being drawn to images they shouldn't look at. But I mean, some men are drawn to watching very gory, you know, nasty kind of movies, or some people are drawn to watching, you know, evil spirit filled kind of movies, like the poltergeist movies and things like that. You know, those are things we still shouldn't set before our eyes, and those are things that some people are drawn to. You know, so we need to be praying over our husbands that they would want to be less involved in watching those things, or listening to music that doesn't necessarily glorify God. You know, a lot of music out there is all about adultery and, you know, drinking and partying and, you know, finding yourself in culture and everything. So, you know, we need to pray that they continue to find themselves in God and in growing closer to God. Yes. Growing and transforming, yes, yes, definitely. And if there's an issue of, you don't feel like maybe your husband is truly saved, like I said, just be praying the prayers about, salvation and stuff. I still need to print those up. I didn't print them up yet. I need to print those up and get them out for anybody that might want them or might need them. And they might just be good to have on hand. I mean, you can change the phraseology for my husband into, my friend, my cousin, my whomever. Because, those are just, prayers and scriptures over praying, for them to find the truth of God's word and the truth of the gospel, so that can be used for anybody at any point. But I really feel like this was God's timing on all of this. Like I said, I had the book for over a year now, and coming up on 2 years. And I started reading it and got mad at my husband and never read it. Didn't want to pray over him, you know what I mean? And if I did pray over him, it was like one of those, God, why don't you show him what he's doing wrong? I wish you would show him what he's doing wrong. Not the way I should have been praying at all. So it was definitely a God's timing kind of thing, because I know that there's a lot going on in our world right now that we really need to be lifting up our husbands. Because, despite what culture says, they are still the leaders of the house, and they are still going to be the ones that help hopefully lead our culture, our country back into glorifying God instead of whatever it's been doing, all the changing and shifting that's been going on in our country these days. So we need to be praying for them, and praying for ourselves too, obviously, because we're by far not perfect. So, and I think in doing that, and you can't pray for somebody this scripturally based and not find that you realize that you need prayer for yourself. Praise God. Yep, I know. Like I said, you can't pray for somebody like that and then not find that you need to change yourself, or see that you are changing in all of this. Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel that God has been bringing more awareness to areas that I know I need to change. Some of y'all don't know this, but I tend to have a short fuse. I do. I think Trista, honestly, might be one of the very few people in this group that actually has seen my fuse blow. Because I'm really good at censoring things. But I have a short fuse, and I don't let it off in front of anybody except those that I'm closest to, and that's that's not a good thing either. I'm my children's greatest witness, and I shouldn't be blowing my fuse to them or my husband. So God's been bringing more awareness to those kind of things as I've been going through this prayer challenge, and so He's working. He really is, not just on our husbands, but on us and on our children. Like I said, I've had people tell me that their children are aware, and they're seeing changes, and they're wanting to do changes on their own. Yes, amen. Yeah, and there's where is it? I think it's in James, where he talks about you have not because you ask not, and if you are praying and you ask for the wrong reasons, that you won't get the answer to your prayer. If we're asking for selfish reasons, husband, I want my husband to realize that he's wrong and I'm right, and that's not asking for the right reason. Asking that your husband changes because you want your way and you don't want to move when he wants to move, or you don't. There's so many reasons you can pray and ask amiss, growing up charismatic. And I like, if you're charismatic and you're on here, know that I harbor no ill feelings. That's how I was raised. But in reading my Bible with my husband and going beyond what the pastor taught me and being a Berean for myself, meaning studying the word for myself and not just going off of what I was taught, I come to find there is a lot of truth that is being left out. Something that my husband preached on Sunday was, the fact that we are living in the end times where people will heap unto themselves teachers because they have itching ears. People like mainstream preachers who are on TV in mega churches don't always necessarily preach the gospel. Joel Osteen, and I hate name dropping, but Joel Osteen was one of those who to Larry King and them, he's basically said that many roads will get to you to heaven. And I'm sorry, but that's not the gospel. That's not the gospel in any way, shape, or form. There's only one way to heaven, and that's through Jesus. And if you won't call sin sin, and you won't admit that you're a sinner in need of Jesus and his blood that he shed on the cross, then there's no heaven waiting for you. You can't, tell people that God wants you to be happy, healthy, and wealthy, because that's not the way it's going to be. David's life was nothing like happy, healthy, and wealthy. Yeah, he was a king. Yeah, he had riches, but he was on the run for his life half the time. Solomon was the wisest man ever to live, because he asked God. God said, you've pleased me. What can I give you? And Solomon didn't ask for riches. He didn't ask for the most beautiful wife or the perfect family or anything. He said, God, give me wisdom. And that pleased God even more. So God not only gave him wisdom, but he gave him riches. He had kings and queens and wise men and pharaohs and emperors from all over the world coming to him for wisdom. And they bring him gifts, and extravagant gifts, and to buy answers from him, basically, to get in his good graces. And he wrote pretty much the entire book of Ecclesiastes. And he says that he had men singers and women singers, and he had every food that you can ever imagine, and he had every drink that you could ever drink. He drank to get drunk. He drank to, to find joy. He had all the knowledge, and he had, all the homes, and anything he could ask for, he had it. He said, I've worked with my hands, and I've had privilege. I've done it all, and all of it was vanity. The only thing that I can find that would bring me peace and bring me happiness was God, and so don't tell me that God wants you to be happy, healthy, and wealthy, and that, if you're, giving to God, he's going to heap back to you, all kinds of excess, because that's not the way it works either. I was raised on that as well. Give God a teaspoon and he'll give you back a shovelful. It doesn't always work that way, because God doesn't want you giving for the purpose of getting back. We're not supposed to store into ourselves treasures on earth. We're supposed to store for ourselves treasures in heaven. And so if we're just giving to God so that he'll give us all these riches here on earth, we're not putting our treasure stored in heaven. So that's what majority of what Christians are eating these days. All these mega churches and all these channels that are broadcasting these TV shows, as you can't even classify them as preaching because that's not what they are. They're feeding this to all of the mainstream Christians, and it's a matter of that's the only truth that they're getting, because they're listening to the preacher once a week. They're not being Bereans. They're not studying the Bible on their own. They're not getting good gospel truth. And so we are falling short of getting the gospel out. We're falling short of reaching the lost and doing all the things that we're supposed to do. And so that's why our country's falling apart. Something I read I think it was today, from another pastor's wife page that I follow, I believe it was talking about how we kind of expect our lives are going to go a certain way, and we would think that we're not going to have any hard times or trials or tribulations, and that we should just be accepted for because we're good people or whatever. But Jesus came and he was not accepted in his community, and he was betrayed by those closest to him, and he was beaten and tortured. And he says that the servant is not greater than the master. And then if it's happened to him in good times, in green times, which was when he was here and present on the earth, then it's going to happen to us in dry times. He's been off the earth for over 2,000 years, and his light has kind of faded as we've removed him from church, or from the schools, and we've removed him from daily life, and and from the government, and from all these things. So in the dry times, we're going to receive it far worse, and that it's not encouraging to hear that. It honestly, it sucks to think about. We're going to be sitting here having to struggle through harder times, where one day we're going to have to worship in secret or risk being beheaded. That's all over the world that's happening. That's happening, in China, it's happening in Iran, it's happening in Iraq, it's happening in Saudi Arabia, it's happening in all of these different countries. And thankfully it's not happening here. But I mean, if you open your eyes and look around at what's going on in the media these days, it doesn't seem like we're too far off from it, and it really, it stinks thinking about it, that this might not ever come back to a normal as we know it, that it might get harder from here, because Christians are going to be put up on the butcher block. But we have something they don't have. We have hope. We have the hope of our eternal salvation, and that's the one thing that can keep us positive, knowing that we know the end story. We know how things are going to happen, and despite how much they hate us and abuse us and reject us, that it's still our job, it's still our calling to reach out and try and win them over to God. Because when you think about it, even the person, that is dragging people out of their cars and beating them because, whatever the reason, they don't deserve hell. Definitely, yeah. So, we need to be consistent in reading our Bibles. We need to be consistent in praying for our homes and our marriages and our husbands and our country. Just to try and remind others to keep their faith, to keep their encouragement up, because it will get harder. I hate to say it, but it will. And there has to be a voice of hope and a voice of peace and comfort for those that know the truth, but are just getting caught up in all the distractions. And I think that's what a lot of it is we're really just getting caught up in all these earthly distractions and not focusing on God's truth. So, yeah, it really does. It's been calling for judgment since we took God out of school and legalized abortion, and it's only gotten worse with all the homosexual agenda and all of that sort of thing. America either needs to get themselves straight, or they really need to get ready to answer for all of the things that they've done. It sucks for those of us that don't live that way, but like I said, we have that eternal hope. So warrior camp, I like that. Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of my thoughts on wanting to keep this going, because even if it's not a different prayer challenge every month, because yes, praying is critical, but also studying God's word and seeing the truth despite the culture that's around you is very important too, and just focusing on God's word. So we can definitely balance that, though. But yeah, yep, we're going to be an army of Ezer wives who are protecting and supporting our husbands through prayer. Have you guys seen that meme on Facebook where it's the wolf and there's the male wolf sitting up here, and then there's the female wolf laying down here, the teeth all grit, and it talks about that to the unknown eye, that it's the female wolf seems scared, like she's seeking protection under her husband, but honestly or her mate, I don't know what you call a wolf, but that she's actually guarding his neck to keep him safe from a fatal attack. That's what we are. We're female wolves, y'all. I'm corny. Yeah, you'll get used to me. I come up with some of the worst mom jokes ever. My husband doesn't like, I tell him a mom joke and he's like, babe, come on. So, if we're going to be doing more live, just, chit chat here and there, be ready for it, because, ask Trista, and I think Jessa might know some of them too. Rebecca is really good at knowing some of them. It was a wolf, Trista. I saw the one with the wolf. I don't know about the lion. I'm going to post it in the group. I'm going to find it and post it. But yeah, she's sitting there under there gritting her teeth, and she looks like she's, scared, but reactive in a scared way. But it says that she actually does that so that she can protect his neck from another male wolf attacking and biting him. Yeah, my mom jokes are worse than dad jokes, I think. So, I don't know. We'll have to look into that and see if it's a lioness thing too, or a lion's thing. I know that there's one dominant male lion per pride. I don't know how that works, but God is the lion and a lamb. But yeah, we'll look into it. I just like that whole concept, though. Yes, we do need mom jokes. I think that keeps us sane. But anyway, yeah, it's getting, let's see, what time is it? 9:28. Yeah, it's gonna be at that time my brain's gonna start shutting down. I don't do well at night. Usually I fall asleep. Russell will turn on the TV for the kids and they'll watch a documentary or something, or a movie, and I'm usually asleep before 5 minutes into it. I'm not a night person, I'm not a morning person either. I'm just not a time person. I don't like mornings and I don't like nights, and honestly I'm tired throughout the day. And that has a lot to do with, my medical stuff, but, it is what it is. I'm here. But 4:28. So no, you're way out there. That's early. I wish it was 4:28 here. It seemed like my day flew by so fast. 1 minute I was getting the kids ready to start school after they did their chores, and then the next minute, ooh, Hawaii, that's right. And then the next minute I'm out running errands, and then it's like 6 hours later, and I wasn't even gone 6 hours, but Then all of a sudden I'm home and finishing up the kids' schoolwork, and here's dinner on the table. Got to get it done, and now it's 9:30. So my day went by so fast. So, yeah, that's right. I'd love to be in Hawaii. Never been. I'm sure it's beautiful. Like lots of mountains and ocean. That'd probably be ideal. I think I'd like that. Yeah. Not cold. Alaska has a lot of pretty too, but yeah, it's too cold up there. And that's why Trista doesn't see me anymore up in Indiana, because she moved up where it's cold. I don't do cold. Anyway, so yeah, this was fun. I enjoyed, the interaction. Next time somebody might have to pop on and do a live with me. I think that'd be more fun. Doing a couple people talking back, amongst everybody. All right, well, I got all my laundry folded. I'm gonna put it away and go get my sheets out of the dryer and finish making my bed up and go to bed at some point. But it was a good night, and I enjoyed chatting with y'all. Maybe we'll do it again. And y'all just keep praying, keep encouraging. Be active on the page. No, I don't know about that. I don't know if there is anything in the middle. You go up too far and it snows. Even it snows in Arkansas. I don't like that. So, we'll see. We might find something. We'll try. We'll look at it. Anyway. But, alright, ladies. Like I said, just keep praying, keep being encouraging. And, thank you, Margaret. I appreciate it. Alright, ladies, love you. We'll see you tomorrow morning.